There are some names in marketing that are just so sticky.
Oh, yeah.
You hear them once, and they lodge in your brain forever.
Yeah.
Usually we're talking about like a soda brand or a tech startup.
Right.
But today, we're looking at a figure who mastered personal branding in an industry that, well, most business shows are a little scared to touch.
It really is a masterclass in naming, though. I mean, you take a massive pop culture icon, Janet Jackson, you tweak it just enough to keep the lawyers away,
Right.
and then you combine it with a phrase that tells the consumer exactly what's on offer. Jack me. It's cheeky, it's memorable, and, as it turns out, it's surprisingly durable. We're talking, of course, about Janet Jacme.
Born Anitha Elaine Brown.
Mhm.
And when you look at her career, it's just so much more than a clever pun.
Exactly. And, before we go any further, I do want to set the stage for everyone listening. Yes, we are diving into the career of a pioneer in the adult film industry.
Hmm.
But the reason we pulled this stack of sources isn't to, gawk at the content or giggle about titles.
Not at all. The mission here is really to look at the mechanics of a career that survived against all odds. We're talking about a Chicago-born performer who started in the VHS era.
Literally shipping physical tapes in boxes.
Yes. And managed to reinvent herself as a director, a business owner, and a digital content creator in the age of social media.
It is a genuine survival story. You have to understand, the shelf life for most performers in that space is maybe, 18 months? It's a high turnover gig.
You come in, you make a splash, you burn out.
Where the audience just moves on. Janet Jacme has a Hall of Fame ring.
So let's peel this back. We have to start with that persona we just mentioned, Janet Jacme.
Okay.
On paper, it looks like a brilliant marketing move. But looking at the notes here, it seems like it was also a bit of a double-edged sword.
It's a fascinating paradox. On one hand, the name is genius. I mean, in the early 90s, the real Janet Jackson was arguably the biggest pop star on the planet.
Oh, for sure.
And in Ether's subject, she had this genuine physical resemblance. The sources describe these captivating brown eyes, silky black hair. She had that Rhythm Nation look.
So she anchors herself to a celebrity image.
Exactly. Adds that double entendre Jacme, and boom, instant recognition. It's classic association strategy.
It connects her to something people already love.
Precisely. But here's the snag. In the pre-internet days, a unique spelling is fine. You see it on a box cover, you remember it. But as soon as the industry moved to search engines,
Oh, right, the spelling.
it became a nightmare. The sources are pretty clear on this. Because she used that creative spelling, Jacme, the archival metadata is a total mess.
So you can't find her work easily.
You'll find her credited as Janet Jacme, with 2 E's, Jackie G. Wiz, Tiffany Rose, or just Nikki. It's all over the place.
Which is a disaster for brand consistency. If I'm typing Janet Jackson but looking for her, I get the singer. If I type Janet Jacme, I just get a phrase, not a person.
Yeah, it's a huge disaster. I mean, if people can't spell your name, they can't find your content. She basically created an SEO problem for herself before SEO was even a thing.
That's a really good point. You want to be unique, but not so unique that the algorithm just, ignores you.
Mm-hmm.
But she overcame that. And I think a big part of it was her look.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned the Janet Jackson thing, but the 90s industry had a very specific aesthetic, didn't it?
It certainly did. If you think back to that time, it was the era of the, let's call it the pamphlet body.
Okay.
Highlight surgical, very exaggerated, lots of artificial enhancements, big hair, heavy makeup. It was about a fantasy that looked like a fantasy. Janet Jacme went the other way.
She zagged.
She zagged hard. She stood about 5'3", with a 34-24-35 frame. The sources all emphasize her natural look.
So not hyper-augmented.
Not at all. She had tattoos, which gave her a bit of an edge, sort of a rock and roll vibe, but the core appeal was this girl next door authenticity.
It's the counter-programming strategy, right? If everyone else looks like a cartoon character, the most radical thing you can be is a real person.
And that resonates. The sources describe her as having charm and allure rather than just, raw shock value. It let the audience connect with her differently. She wasn't just a visual effect. She felt like a person.
And that real person vibe, it seems like it extended to her performance style, too.
Yeah.
She enters the business in the early 90s, what we'll call the first era.
Right.
And she wasn't just, showing up and smiling for the camera.
No, the descriptions of her early scenes are intense. High intensity is the phrase. It just keeps popping up in the reviews and biographies.
And what does that translate to specifically?
Well, she was vocal,
Mhm.
loud. She brought this kind of frenetic energy to the screen. And that's crucial because in the VHS era, you couldn't just skip ahead easily.
We were watching a tape linearly.
Exactly. The performance had to hold your attention.
Yeah.
She developed a reputation for authenticity in, let's say, harder content.
And when we say harder, we're talking about the physical demands of the job.
We are demanding physical scenes, sometimes with multiple partners. She really carved out a niche for herself in Black-themed and interracial content. And crucially, she found a recurring on-screen partner in Julian St. Jacques.
An industry legend in his own right.
A huge one. And that chemistry is currency. I
Yeah.
think people forget that this is a business of relationships, literally and figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
When you find a pairing that works, where the energy is palpable and the audience believes the connection, fans will buy every single tape that features the two of you.
It builds a franchise within a franchise.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So she builds this really solid foundation. She has the name, the look, the niche, the partner. She's working hard in the early 90s. She's shipping units. And then she just disappears.
Cold turkey, mid-90s, she retires.
See, this is where the story usually ends. I did my time. I made some money. I'm out.
And for 99% of performers, that is the end. They become a footnote, maybe a trivia question for a diehard collector. But Janet Jacme is different. Her absence, it seems, made the heart grow fonder.
She didn't just fade away.
Not at all. In fact, her impact was so significant during that first run that in 2006, despite being retired for a while and living a civilian life, she got the call.
The AVN Hall of Fame.
Yep. And again, just to contextualize for listeners who aren't industry insiders, AVN is basically the Oscars of this world.
It's the highest honor you can get.
It validates that your career mattered. And the context here is just so vital. When she was inducted, she was only the third Black female performer in history to enter the Hall of Fame.
That is a staggeringly low number. It really highlights the barriers to entry and recognition that existed then. Who were the first two?
The first was Jeannie Pepper, and the second was Heather Hunter.
And there's a personal connection there, isn't there?
Yes, Heather Hunter is noted in the sources as being Janet Jacme's best friend. So you have this very tight-knit lineage. These women weren't just co-workers.
They were pioneers.
Pioneers supporting each other in an industry that, frankly, didn't always prioritize diversity or celebrate performers of color with the same fanfare.
It's a legacy of breaking barriers.
Mm.
I mean, we're looking at a filmography of over 200 films. The IAFD cites 229 specifically. That's a massive body of work for someone who even took a break.
It is, but the break is actually where the business lessons really start to kick in, because she didn't stay retired.
This is the second act, and this is the part I find most interesting from like an entrepreneurial standpoint.
The second act is where she takes control. She spends about 2 years living in Atlanta, Georgia, a normal life. But in 2005, she decides to return to the West Coast, back to LA.
Why come back? Was it just for the money, or was there more of a strategy?
I think it was a realization of ownership. When she came back in 2005, she didn't just come back as talent to be hired by other people.
She came back as the boss.
She founded Janet Jacme Enterprises. She moved behind the camera to direct. She started writing. In 2008, she became a featured writer for X-Peeps.
I remember XPs. I was like the LinkedIn meets MySpace for the adult industry back then.
Exactly. And that's such a key detail. It shows she recognized the seismic shift happening in media. In the 90s, she was selling VHS tapes.
Right.
By 2008, she realized the audience was online. She wasn't just performing, she was blogging, engaging, building a personal brand on social networks before influencer was even a common term.
She was engaging directly with her consumer base. But she also had to deal with the elephant in the room. She wasn't 22 anymore. She was returning to a notoriously youth-obsessed industry in her late 30s.
And this is my favorite part of her career arc. Most performers try to hide their age. They get more surgery, they filter the photos, they lie on their bio.
Right.
Janet Jacme leaned into it. She pivoted her entire brand to define the MILF category.
For those unaware, MILF essentially refers to, let's say, an attractive, mature woman, often a mother figure.
Right. It's a genre that just exploded in the mid-2000s, which was coincidentally right when she was returning. And she positioned herself as one of the first and most prominent African-American performers to own that label.
So she took what could have been a liability, her age,
Yeah.
and turned it into her unique selling proposition.
It's classic rebranding. If you can't be the fresh new face, be the experienced icon.
And it worked.
It worked brilliantly. She opened up an entirely new market for herself. She realized that her original fans from the 90s had also aged. They didn't necessarily want a 19-year-old. They wanted the star they remembered who had matured just like they did.
That is such a smart insight. It's retention marketing.
Exactly. And she participated in viral trends like the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, keeping herself visible in the mainstream conversation. She wasn't hiding in the shadows. She was right there on social media, looking great and owning her status.
There's another layer to this evolution that I found really compelling in the notes. It's not just about business. It's about personal boundaries and how they shift over time.
Oh, absolutely. This is the human element of the story.
When she started in the 90s, she had some very strict rules about what she would and wouldn't do on camera.
Specifically regarding other women. In 1993, there was an interview, Black Dirty Debutantes, where she was explicit. She said, and this is a quote, "I do not prefer women sexually."
So she didn't do girl-on-girl scenes. That was a hard line.
A hard line, which is rare in an industry that often demands performers be up for anything. It takes guts to say no when you're just starting out.
It does.
But watch the timeline. By 2000, in a feature called Afro Auditions 2, her language starts to soften. She hints that maybe her perspective is shifting. She doesn't say it outright, but she suggests her private life might be more fluid than her public persona.
And eventually?
Eventually, she walks through that door. She performs her first scene with another female performer, Pinky XXX.
Breaking her own rule.
I don't know if I'm call it breaking a rule so much as evolving as a human being.
That's a better way to put it.
Yeah. People change. Their comfort levels change. Their curiosity changes. Her on-screen persona evolved right alongside her real-life journey. And, from a content perspective, it kept her fresh.
It keeps the audience guessing.
Fans who'd followed her for a decade suddenly saw her doing something totally new. It creates buzz.
Speaking of keeping up, we have to mention the physical aspect of this comeback. She wasn't just directing, she was still performing at a really high level.
Oh, definitely. She wasn't phoning it in from the director's chair. The sources highlight a specific scene with a performer named Justin Slayer in Fatty Girls Volume 4.
Fatty Girls Volume 4. The industry titles are always a treat.
It's a real standout moment of her return era. Justin Slayer represents that new generation high-energy, very athletic, aggressive performance style.
Okay.
And Janet Jacme, the veteran, went toe-to-toe with him.
She kept up.
She more than kept up. It proved she hadn't lost a step. She still had that high-intensity vocalization and energy from the 90s, just refined by experience. It signaled to the industry, I'm not here as a legacy act. I'm here to compete.
So when we step back and look at the whole picture, from Monica Brown in Chicago to the Girl Next Door on VHS to the Hall of Famer to the director and MILF icon, what are we really seeing here?
I think we're seeing a case study in adaptability.
It feels like she rode 3 different waves of technology.
She did. She mastered the physical media era by having a great look and a reliable partner. She mastered the transition era by getting out before she burned out.
Yeah.
And then she mastered the digital era by owning her production and redefining her niche.
It's the difference between being a gig worker and being an entrepreneur.
Precisely. She stopped waiting for the phone to ring and started building the phone lines herself. She created Janet Jacme Enterprises so that she wasn't dependent on a director casting her. She was the director.
And she did it all while navigating the complexities of race and age in a notoriously difficult industry.
That's the legacy. She proved you don't have to be the youngest person in the room to be the most relevant. You just have to know who you are and who your audience is.
And you have to be willing to evolve.
Exactly. If she had tried to play the girl next door role in 2008 that she played in 1992, it wouldn't have worked. It would have felt fake.
Instead, she played the experienced boss.
And the audience loved it.
It's a powerful lesson, regardless of what industry you work in, whether you're in tech or sales or creative arts.
Absolutely. The principles of longevity are the same. Own your brand, adapt to the technology, and don't let the market tell you you're expired.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with something to chew on. We often obsess over youth as the primary driver of innovation and relevance. We look at the 30 under 30 lists. We obsess over the new prodigy.
We do. We worship the new.
But Janet Jacme's biggest success came after she embraced her seniority. She turned her experience into an asset that the new kids couldn't compete with. So here's the question for you. In your own career, are you trying to compete with the 22-year-olds on their turf? Or are you building a strategy where your years of experience become the very thing that makes you indispensable?
It's about leveraging your history, not hiding from it.
Exactly. Find your niche, own your name, even if the spelling is tricky, and don't be afraid to reinvent the game. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.